Are you ready? Ready to slice and dice?
Yes, we are. All right. I'm Jason. This is Craig.
I am Craig.
Is the Bunny Rabbit's Hole. All right. For those who've never been here before or forgot from the last time you listened to us, what we do here is each week we pick one theme. We talk about that theme for a little while until something inspires us to talk about something different. When we talk about something different, we're going to explore that topic until something makes us talk about something different. And then we'll have to look at our notes and realize, the fuck were we supposed to be talking about in the first place? And then we go do that.
Yes, it's like a couple of old stoners trying to remember what the fuck they're talking about after losing track for the last 20 minutes.
Emphasis on the old part.
Yeah. So, yeah, like Jason said, we take a central theme, we research it, blah, blah, blah. Basically sums it up. If you're easily offended, get the hell out of here.
Right. Yep. We have opinions. You have opinions.
Yep.
Our opinions, your opinions, and sometimes they don't line up. Sometimes they go like this, and it is what it is.
Yep, it's like I say, your kind of fun is okay as long as it doesn't hurt others or infringe upon their fun.
There you go. Okay. Speaking of fun, what are we going to talk about, or better yet, whom are we going to talk about today?
We are going to talk about the late, great Sean Connery.
Yes. Thomas Sean Connery, born.
Yes. Well, let's not forget the Sir part.
Yes, Sir Thomas Sean Connery, born in Fountainbridge, Edinburgh, Scotland, on August 25th, 1930. 1930.
Yeah, he was 90 years old when he died.
So what makes me weirded out about that is he was already pushing 50 when he did his last James Bond film.
Right.
Because it was 84, so yeah, he'd have been 54.
Yeah. Yeah, and my wife said something about his death. Yeah. So if you take 10, because he died on Halloween, right?
Yeah.
So 10, 31, 20. Get rid of the zeros, add numbers together, it comes up to 007.
Oh, that's so cool.
Isn't it? Which, as most of you know, Sean Connery was the original, James Bond.
Yes.
Trigger, not stud.
Now, he went on to do 7 James Bond films, which coincidentally, so did Roger Moore.
But Sean is better. I liked Roger Moore, but Sean is better.
I'll say this. No offense to Sean Connery. Best James Bond. Not the best movies.
No.
I like the Roger Moore movies better.
Yeah.
But Sean pulled it up. It's kind of like the first Batman movies. It's like Val Kilmer was a really good Batman, but a terrible Bruce Wayne. And George Clooney was a great Bruce Wayne, but a terrible Batman. You know.
And Ben Affleck sucked both.
Yes. It was kind of that thing. So
it's cool that you said that, because I mean, if I have to look at my favorite James Bond, and I'm probably going to piss people off, but I've got to go between Daniel Craig and Pierce Brosnan. Daniel Craig because of the action.
I think the Craig movies are probably the best Bond movies.
Yeah. Well, because they're updated with more martial arts, more actual fighting.
They're more Jason Bourne than they are Goldfinger.
Right. Yeah, because I mean, you look at the old 007 movies, and the fighting was a mixture of pushing, grappling, and slapping.
Yeah.
And it was like watching 2 high school girls fight pulling hair. And
right. But
high school girls are brutal.
From the 80s.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's talk about the man.
The man, the myth, the legend.
One, Sean Connery. All right. So Sean Connery was married twice. He was married originally to a woman named Diane. I don't know how to pronounce her name because it looks like cilantro. Where they had a son named Jason. Jason Connery is also a director and actor in his own right. Has marked his own little niche. And his mom, back in about the same time that Sean Connery retired, which was 2006. We'll go into that later. But
yeah,
she said that Sean Connery put nothing aside for her son Jason, and then Sean said something about how Jason was using his name to mark his own, to make his own way.
right.
But neither here nor there. He only had one child. His name is Jason, and he's done okay for himself.
Yeah. Well, and like his second wife, I saw an interview with her, and she talked about that. She talked about how Sean was a great father to Jason. So you have to kind of look at this with less rose-colored lenses and wonder, is his ex-wife just being vindictive?
Right. Because, well, they divorced in like what, I don't have the exact date, but it was pre 1975. So
Yeah.
that's when he married his second wife.
Right.
So that's a long time ago.
Right. Yeah. It's crazy because I mean,
Divorced in 73.
right. So let's scale it back a bit. So Sean Connery grew up in a poor family.
Mm-hmm.
Wanted to do something for himself. He had, as a teenager, had a job as a milkman in Edinburgh, where he delivered milk all over the place, and then joined the Navy at 16.
He had a couple other jobs though that were kind of cool. One was a coffin polisher.
Wow, that would suck.
Yeah, he polished coffins for a funeral home for a bit, and then he was a nude model.
Yep.
For the art college there, where Richard DeMarco was a student there at the time, and he referred to Sean Connery, well, being naked, as an Adonis.
Well, yeah, and were those the only two jobs you can talk about before I jump into the?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so
I just wanted to throw the coffin polisher in there.
Yeah. If you listen to him talk, there's a bunch of interviews about him being in the Navy. He was not a big fan of being in the Navy. He did not like the fact that you just had to blatantly follow orders. And he actually made some films that kind of showed that in his earlier years. I can't remember the name of. Hold on, I'll tell you what the name of it is. I have his filmography right here. But he played. He was in. Is it No Road Back? Let's see. No, that's crime film. The Hell Drivers. No, that's crime. Action of the Tiger.
Well, you can see that attitude in the character Bond that he played as a.
Oh yeah.
I'm not really going to follow your rules. I'm going to do what I want.
Right. Well, anyways, yeah. I mean, the movie. I can't remember the name of it, but it was pre-Bond. It was black and white.
Mm-hmm.
And he played basically a recruit in some military force and was going through like a boot camp or whatever and was just getting beaten down. And he just had enough. Just fucking snaps.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing him in those old roles like that before James Bond, you really get a good feel of how versatile this man could really be if he really pushed himself. I mean, he left the Navy because on a medical discharge because he had ulcers, really bad ulcers, and he lost a lot of weight. So when he got out of the Navy, on a whim, he tried out for the choir in, was it Pacific Heights?
Yeah.
In London, where he had relocated to. And the director's like, well, are you going to become an actor? And he'd never thought of it. So he's like, why not? I'll give it a shot. But like after he did the play, he got into bodybuilding because he had lost so much weight in the Navy, and actually went and competed in Mr. Universe contests at the time.
Yes. The same thing that Arnold was known for.
Right. And it was funny because after and I loved his reasoning for it. But after the bodybuilding, he got offered a position on a English football team. We're gonna call it that because that's what they call it over there.
Yes.
Which he turned down, and he turned it down because he thought, I can do this for a little while, and it's gonna beat up my body, but I got to think of what's gonna make it the best in the long run. And so he decided to pursue acting because he's like, it's gonna take less physical toil on my body, breaking it down and all that, and I can still exercise and keep in shape and play these roles.
Yeah, and he was offered 25 pounds a week to play for the Manchester United.
Yeah, and that's not like some no-name football team either. That's one of the biggest.
Like the Yankees. I mean, it's the biggest name in football.
And for somebody from Scotland or England or anybody from the UK to turn down an opportunity to do that when it is the biggest sport in the entire world. The United States is not the entire world. There are sports that are bigger than American football, American baseball, American basketball.
Yes.
And that would be, as we call it, soccer, as every other country calls it, football.
Right.
Football, you bet.
Because one of a strong and proud American tradition is to bastardize your sports.
Yes, and turn it into
your traditions.
Turn it into soccer. Which I'm sorry. I'm sure people out there like it. It bores the shit out of me.
Me too. Me too.
I mean, I respect them for their abilities and for their stamina. I mean, to run for 90 minutes plus with injury time added.
Yeah. It's the fake, oh my God, you came close to my face, I'm gonna fall down and pretend like I'm about to die. I can't handle that stuff. Yeah,
it's the Yarmer Yager version of hockey where he just takes dive.
Right.
On the other point.
Yeah. Well, he did so much that they changed the rules.
Right.
So
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to go back to him in acting.
Yep.
Because he was still a relatively unknown when he auditioned for James Bond.
Right.
Now, Ian Fleming, the author, the creator, the birther of James Bond, did not want Sean Connery.
No, he did not.
He
wanted an American guy, didn't he?
What's that?
Didn't he want like Redford or something like that?
Cary Grant.
Cary Grant, that's it. Yep.
Gosh, no, it's like Sean Connery. Okay, Cary Grant. I don't know. I don't think that would work. I mean, Cary Grant was a good actor in his day. He was a great actor for his time. He's got some funny movies. I can't see him pulling that role off.
No.
Yeah, James Bond would have been a one-off. Dr. No would have been silly, and it just wouldn't have worked. But
before he got that role in James Bond, though, it's 3 years earlier, Disney cast him in Darby O'Gill and the Little People.
Oh.
That was his first color movie. That was in 1959. And I've seen some clips from it, and he sings in it. The guy's got an amazing voice. Really good singing voice. He doesn't think so, but Sean is very humble from everything I've seen. Very humble person. But, he played Darby O'Gill, or he played Michael McBride in Darby O'Gill and the Little People. And I want to see it. I might see if Disney Plus has it on there now.
I'm going to have to look tonight. That might, when I was looking for things to watch with him in it, the last place I thought of looking was Disney Plus.
Right. Yeah. Same here until right now when I was thinking about it. But go ahead.
Oh, but going back to the 25 pounds a week, he made $17,000 for his first James Bond role. Then it was like $250,000 for the next one, $500,000. But then ultimately, when you got to Diamonds Are Forever, 1971, he set a Guinness record for the highest paid actor at the time at $1.2 million, plus 12.5% of the U.S. net. Now today that would have been close to like $40 million.
And the really cool thing about that one is his entire salary he donated to his foundation, which helped educate people.
Yes, he donated a lot of his salary, and it's surprising that he ended up with an estimated net worth of $350 million when he passed away.
Right.
We're going to talk about how that could have been astronomically more a little bit later.
Right.
But he didn't. He said no. We'll go into that in a little bit. But yeah, that's what I was going to go with. Is he donated a lot of his entire paychecks for a lot of movies straight to his charity.
Yeah, he was an incredible actor. I mean, he was an influence in our lives as children.
Oh, definitely.
And
we wanted to be super spies,
right,
and superheroes, and
right. And I mean, he's done so much in his life. I mean, I watched the entire 3-hour movie, A Bridge Too Far, where he plays Major General Roy Urquhart.
Mm-hmm.
Basically British Army major during World War II, where they're trying to seize a bridge in Holland. And God, that was a good movie. I just watched. I mean, this movie was made in 1977. I just watched it in the last couple of days in sections because it's 3 hours.
It's 3 hours.
But he had a phenomenal role. Robert Redford was in the movie. Not Michael Ironside, but James Caan. It was just packed with people. Yeah. You look at it and go, they're probably kind of no names then, but they're huge stars after.
Well, James Caan would have been not too far off of Godfather 2.
Yeah.
Or Godfather.
And the cool thing is James Caan has a soldier with him that he takes to he's part of the American army that's there with helping the British.
Mm-hmm.
And he driving this Jeep, and he's got like his friend, his fellow soldier with him who's kind of down, and it looks like he's dead. And he takes him into the army base and goes up to the doctor. The doctor's not going to look at him, and he pulls a gun on the doctor, James Caan, and says, "You're going to look at him right now. If not, I'm going to kill you. I know this is, a crime. I know this is, a punishable offense. I'm willing to take whatever punishment I get for being insubordinate or whatever, but you have to look at him." And he's like, well, they overlooked something. So he goes and looks, saves the guy's life, comes back, and is like tearing into James Caan with the MPs around saying, what you did is grounds for going to the brig and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, all this stuff. He's just laying into James Caan. James Caan's like, yes, but thank you for saving so-and-so or whoever it was. Oh. And so the doctor calls the MP over. He says, I want you to arrest this man. He's like, can you count to 10 real fast? And the guy's like, you mean like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? He's like, yes, that's good. Go away now. I don't need you. You were arrested for 10 seconds. Now get away from me.
Nice. That's awesome.
Because the doctor appreciated him standing up for his friend, but still had to play the role.
Right.
And he's been in some really weird movies too.
Mm-hmm.
Zardoz.
Yeah.
Did you see anything about that?
No, I did not.
It is a science fiction fantasy film. Came out in 1974. It's an Irish American science fiction, but he plays this guy that runs around in like this red cloth diaper.
Oh yeah. He's like a swashbuckler, but he's on the desert.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was just crazy. I'm like going, oh, I would like to see that. I mean, there's so many of the movies on here I could not find to watch.
I think after James Bond, my favorite Sean Connery movie, growing up, there's been others that I like even more now, was The Highlander.
Yes, Highlander and Time Bandits.
Then Time Bandits, yes.
He didn't have a major role in Time Bandits. It was more like a half-hour, 20-minute cameo as King Agamemnon from Greece.
Yeah, and then he was also the fireman at the end.
Right. And, it's funny because, yes, he played King Agamemnon with the Scottish accent.
And you and I talked about this before when we were going over this. He's the only person in history in acting that can get away with only using the Scottish accent every time.
Right.
Because he's been a British super spy. He's been a Russian sub-commander. He's been a Greek king. It's like we can just get, he's been countless amounts of Americans,
Well, and when he was playing James Bond, I'm trying to remember which one it was. I want to say it was not Never Say Never Again. I wish all the James Bond movies were in order together. Anyways, and maybe it was Never Say Never Again, but he had to go to Japan and become a ninja.
Yes.
And they said they had to make him Japanese, and they put like prosthetics in his eyes and stuff. They showed it on film. It was part of the film. It might be To Live and Let Die. I can't remember. But so he's there playing, trying to, and they put a hairpiece on him, and he actually looked Japanese, really tall Japanese, but Japanese with a Scottish accent.
With a Scottish accent.
And it's funny because they interviewed Pierce Brosnan, and Pierce Brosnan said, "I took all my cues from Sean." He's like, I'm a fellow Scottish actor, and I don't do accents. Sean didn't do accents, and when they interviewed Sean about it and asked him about it, he said, "I don't need to do the accent. All you need to do is feel the emotion. If I'm trying to concentrate on an accent, you're not going to feel the emotions. You're not going to get the feeling of the movie."
Right. And one of the other things too is he's a Scot, and he never really got to play from somebody from Scotland.
Right. Yeah, that's funny, isn't it?
But and then there's other little things, like when he was in Empire or Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, he's playing Indiana Jones's father. Okay.
Right.
He's only 12 years older than Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
So, which makes you understand that Harrison Ford.
Junior!
Yeah, Harrison Ford is 78.
Right. Oh, man. And it was never really about the fame for him. It was just about following something that made him feel good.
Yeah.
It made him and allowed him to help other people.
Right.
I mean, I'm not saying Sean Connery's a saint. I'm sure he's done bad shit in his life.
And I'll throw one out there. In a 1965 Playboy article, he went out and said it's okay, to hit a woman.
Yeah.
And then in 86, something like that, he was on Barbara Walters, and she asked him about it, and then he's like, "I'm not going to change my opinion."
Right.
There's times when it's okay to hit a woman. Now, when I first read that, and then I saw the Barbara Walters interview on YouTube, it reminded me of a bit that Bill Burr does, and he was actually referring to Phil from the Duck Call kids. I forgot what they're called, but the old one got in trouble when he started saying a bunch of homophobic stuff.
Oh yeah.
And Bill Burr has this bit, and he's like, you got to remember when this guy was born and when he was raised. He went to church, and this is what they're telling him. This is what they're teaching him, and they're forcing him. And then when they finally get him, he gets fame, and he's on TV, and he gets a chance to shine, and he says exactly what those old guys were telling him when he was growing up. And he's like, he says it, and they're like, "That's what? No, that's right, right, guys." Right. they're all dead now. So I'm not absolving that type of speech and behavior, but I think our society is progressing where it needs to go to get away from stuff like that. Now,
Right.
Chris Rock does have a funny bit about hitting women. If you listen to that, it's hilarious. I'll paraphrase. He says something like, "What she calls your mama a bitch?" Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's he goes on to like a couple different things like that. But it's lighthearted. It's funny. He doesn't really mean it. But
Yeah. And Sean Connery is also the only Bond to be in an Alfred Hitchcock movie.
oh,
He
well,
was in Barney,
oh, right,
where he basically kind of forces himself on the girl in the movie, but I mean, it's part of the script.
yeah.
It's funny though because I've watched all these documentaries where they're interviewing other people about Sean,
Mm-hmm.
and one guy says, I can't remember who it was, but he said that the amazing thing about Sean is in Hollywood, the agents run everything. So when you do a film, the agent gets the money, takes their 10%, and when they feel like it, give you your 90%.
Mm.
He's like, Sean turned the tables on it all. He made the films the film companies give him the money, and then he'd decide when the agent got their 10%.
Yeah.
He's like, they're like, he's the only one that could get away with that, but he changed the industry for people.
Well, he had his own production company started in 2002 called Fountain Bridge,
Yes.
which was named after the town that he was born in.
Right.
So I'm going to go back to that whole thing right there where you're talking about payment. Peter Jackson of the Lord of the Rings fame and the Hobbit fame, and one of my guilty pleasures, The Frighteners, which is a great movie if you've never seen it. Michael J. Fox.
Can't go wrong with Michael J. Fox.
Exactly. And that movie is awesome. But Peter Jackson wanted Sean Connery to play Gandalf. And they wanted him so bad. They offered him $10 million per film, plus a 15% stake in the total gross of the entire franchise. When it was all said and done, and the fucking, the smoke fell, the fire was out, and the dollars were counted, he would have made $480 million for playing Gandalf. He turned it down because he didn't. To paraphrase his quote, I never read the books, and I just didn't get it.
Which is odd because Sean was an avid reader.
And he was the voice of the dragon in Dragonheart.
Right. And he also, he portrayed a lot of characters that were well-read type characters.
Mm-hmm.
Like Indiana Jones's father. He was also a professor. So, he was a well-read person. And he would put some, like, of those lines in. He would ad-lib them into the movies.
So a bunch of immortals that have to run around and chop each other's heads off for something called, was it
Quickening? Quickening.
The quickening. That makes sense. But being a wizard doesn't.
Right. Well, and I also think it was because because that was close to the end. He retired in after League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was his last movie.
Yeah, it was 2006 or 2007. He officially retired.
Yeah, and I think it came down to he was just kind of tired.
And he didn't want to relocate to New Zealand for 18 months.
Right. I would, though. It's a beautiful place.
Right?
He did do a voice role in Sir Billy in 2012, but
he was credited as himself.
Yeah. And he was a narrator as Ever to Excel in 2012 as well. But his last real movie was League of Extraordinary Gentlemen in 2003, and that was where he played Alan Quartermain, and that was also his production company that produce that movie, but he was so frustrated with the director, and this is what soured him on acting, according to him, was the fact that in order to get that movie out, he had to chip in and help do the editing on the movie, or it would never have reached the box office.
See, and oh yeah, so and that makes more sense. A whole bunch of literary characters getting together with basically superpowers to go after the bad guy from the Sherlock Holmes movies.
But I think that appealed to him because he loved Jules Verne.
Yeah.
So I think it appealed to him. Yeah, and it's funny because in 2009 he had gone back to Edinburgh for the Edinburgh Film Festival, and while he was there, he took a taxi, and he had a conversation with the taxi driver, and he goes like this: "When I took a taxi during a recent Edinburgh Film Festival, the driver was amazed that I could put a name to every street we passed. How come?" he asked. "As a boy, I used to deliver milk round here," I said. "So what do you do now?" That was rather harder to answer. And I'm sorry, I probably slaughtered his voice, but hey, I had to try it.
Everybody has to.
Yeah, I mean, it's like if he did his own cooking show, or he could have played Wolverine and just been like, "It's time to slice and dice."
Exactly. So when he died, which was just a little bit ago, he was the wealthiest British actor, and at an estimated wealth of $350 million. Sir Anthony Hopkins, number 2 on that list. Then the next one is kind of interesting to me because it's Rowan Atkinson, Mr. Bean.
Oh yeah.
Which, if you hate Mr. Bean, get over it. Go watch some of his one-man specials. They're hilarious. He does this thing where he's like the maitre d' at the gates of hell and just trying to get everybody in. There's no way you don't laugh at it. There's no way you don't laugh at it. But then the number 4 in that spot is the new Batman, Robert Pattinson.
He sucked as a vampire. He sucked as Captain Kirk. He sucked in everything he's done.
But he's Batman now.
Well, you can't. You fucking had Ben Affleck. You can't get worse.
And the old Superman is now Superman again.
Which one?
Brandon Roth.
Huh?
Brandon Roth.
Oh, so he did.
He is. The last I read, he was now Superman.
I didn't like him as Superman. I thought he portrayed Superman as kind of a little bitch.
Yeah, he was boring.
Yep. And he portrays the guy in Legends of Tomorrow the same way. And that's a DC comic book series on the CW.
Okay. I had no idea what you're talking about. I was just going to say, okay, yeah, I'm sure he does.
Because he plays a superhero in that.
I hate him too.
Yep. But I'm just like, and it's not that he's a bad actor. It's just he plays that awkward type person, which is good for Clark Kent. Not good for Superman.
No.
Yeah, I like Henry Cavill better as Superman. Much better.
Yeah, much better.
Of course, I still love Christopher Reeve as Superman too.
Who doesn't? Who didn't? Well, Reeves got it. He understood the duality of the part. You have to play each one completely different.
Right.
And the other two didn't really have that suspension of belief between, there's more than just a little curl in the hair to become Clark Kent to Superman.
Right.
Yeah. So
I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to get us back to Sean Connery.
Okay.
So his highest grossing movie of all of his career, outside of what would have been The Lord of the Rings, was Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, and that made $474 million at the time. It's more now with adjusted. And the actual dollars that his films brought in was $1.88 billion, but adjusted for today, that's $5.3 billion.
Oh, wow.
Which, that's pretty damn good.
Yeah.
And he's got so many little gems in there. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen Medicine Man with Lauren Bracco.
That's my absolute favorite Sean Connery movie.
It's one of mine too. I just lost the cure for the modern plague.
Yeah. Yes, in that movie, he plays a biologist or a chemist or something who is in the Amazon searching for a cure for cancer.
And he finds some flower, or it was a flower that would help in stopping cancer, but they're deforesting the area, and it's the only place on the planet that this flower lives.
Right.
And they end up losing it because they industrialists want to build a road.
Right. And I mean, we all know that cure for cancer. Cannabis.
Exactly.
But
like you said before, he is Sir Sean Connery. He was knighted in 2000 by Queen Elizabeth II. Now, being knighted is kind of a cool thing. That's something that Americans, we just, we get the Medal of Freedom, or
right.
But it's not the same. You don't get to change your fucking name afterwards,
Right.
And there are some that have it that I'm like, really, like Mick Jagger and Paul McCartney and Elton John, like, okay, I guess. But I loved, my favorite though is the Mick Jagger, or not the Mick Jagger. It was so Mick Jagger and Keith Richards were going to get knighted at the same time. Keith went, nah. It's like, really? You're about to get one of the highest honors of any government of our planet.
Right.
You're now in the Queen's court. You were a knight. That's, I mean, for us, that was a fucking dream come true.
Yeah.
I can walk around with fucking suit of armor. Fuck you.
Right.
I'm a knight.
So let's look at a perspective here. So Sean started acting in 1954 in a movie where it's called Lilacs in the Spring, and his role is unknown. The notes are uncredited, but they know he was in it. So he started acting in 1954. In between 1954 and 1988, he made roughly, I would say 30 or 40 movies.
That's quite a few. That's quite a clip.
Yeah. So, but it wasn't until 1988 when he won his first Oscar.
Yes. His
for
one
best,
movie.
Yeah, for Best Supporting Actor in The Untouchables with, what's his name? Kevin
Costner, and opposite of De Niro. Because De Niro played Capone in that.
Right. And he played an Irish cop.
Yes.
Scottish accent.
Yes.
But he won, actually, that was, okay, because he won some Golden Globes, Henrietta Award, 3 Henrietta Awards. But to not even get recognized in the Oscars until 1988.
He did in 88 or 89 when People Magazine's Sexiest Man of the Year at age 59.
It was Sexiest Man of the Century.
Oh, okay. At 59.
They dubbed him Sexiest Man of the entire century.
And then he's our, I guess, America's version of Art knighthood. He's a Kennedy Center honoree.
Okay.
That happened in 99. He won a Tony Award.
He's won lots of awards, but he didn't win anything until 88.
Yeah.
I mean, he did a movie called The Offense, and I saw some clips from that movie. I have not found the movie, but it was a very dramatic role, and I'm going to open it up just to find out more about it. But he did that in 1972. Great year, by the way. And it's a British crime neo-noir drama film directed by Sidney Lumet, based on the 1968 stage play The Story of Yours, Sean Connery is a police detective who kills suspected child molester Kenneth Baxter while interrogating him.
Hmm.
So I watched the scene because he's trying to understand this guy. Why are you killing these children and all this other stuff, or molesting these children? And he's like, help me. And he's like leaning into the guy. Sean Connery is crying, leaned into the guy and pushed him against the wall. And the guy's like, you're hurting me. Stop. But I mean, just that little clip, I'm like, I got to see this movie, but I know it's going to fuck me up. But I mean, just he had this range about him. I mean, from playing King Agamemnon to James Bond to Indiana Jones's dad to a biologist in the Amazon, you know.
A movie that I was really surprised that he didn't get more accolades for was a movie called Just Cause with Ed Harris, where he plays I believe he was a reporter. I don't think he was an attorney. I think he was a reporter investigating what was his name? I'm going to slaughter if I don't get his names right. Blair Underwood. Blair Underwood was an African American in Florida that was supposedly wrongfully accused of murdering a couple people. Well, and he's fighting the death penalty. Well, I'm not going to give the ending away, even though it's a spoiler. I mean, you can't have a spoiler alert on a movie that's came out, what, 92, 95, you know. Anyway, it's one of those movies that has a wild twist ending that you just don't see coming because you are so into everything that Sean Connery's doing, and the amount of passion that he puts into the performance makes you believe that he really thinks that this guy needs to be, not only off of death row, but free.
Right.
And opposite of Ed Harris, who's, I mean, yeah, they were on the opposite sides of the rock.
Yeah.
Which.
And I mean, my wife's favorite is Hunt for Red October, where he plays the Russian submarine captain.
Mm-hmm. We're one of our 60 different. I think more people have played Jack Ryan now that have played James Bond.
Really?
Yeah, because we had Alec Baldwin in that one, Harrison Ford in a couple movies, Ben Affleck played him, Chris Pine played him, Kazurinsky's played him, and is that it? I guess it's only 5, okay. But still, that's a lot.
Yeah.
And I mean, quote down below if I missed one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, like The Name of the Rose, where he plays a monk. How did he not get an Oscar for that one?
Fantastic movie.
Yeah. And it's not like he hadn't done movies up to Untouchables that didn't warrant an Oscar.
Well, and then there's movies like Dragonheart, where he's just the voice of the dragon. Right. But if he wasn't the voice of the dragon, there's no fucking reason to watch that movie.
Right.
Because it wasn't any good. They spent $20 million making this fake dragon because they didn't want to do a CGI version of it.
Right.
And it looked stupid.
Yeah. Who was in The Rock with him? Was it Nicolas Cage?
Cage.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
where they go to Alcatraz and rescue,
I'm not a chemical freak. I'm a chemical super freak.
Right. And
I don't even know what that means.
I don't either. And
we talked about it before because Nick Cage is the master of not human emotions, but emotions.
Right. And I don't remember Sir August D. Winter from the Avengers.
The Avengers is not the Avengers that you think in the Avengers.
It's the British Avengers?
Yes. With who was it? It was Uma Thurman and Ralph Fiennes.
Yep. Okay. That makes more sense because I'm like on the Avengers didn't come out in 98.
Yeah, it was
I think we were still getting Spider-Man at that time.
Right.
But yeah, like Highlander, where he plays an Egyptian with a Scottish accent,
with a Scottish accent.
while the guy playing the Scottish guy had what kind of accent was he? Where was he from? What was his name?
I don't remember.
It was Christopher Lambert, French.
French.
So he had a French accent playing a Scottish guy, while Sean Connery had a Scottish accent playing an Egyptian guy.
Yes.
Teaching Christopher Lambert about, well, I guess if he's French, it's probably Lambert. Teaching him how to be a Highlander.
Yeah. To eventually kill him.
Yeah.
Because there can only be one.
Right.
So if they both kill the Kurgan, then at one time he's going to have to kill him. And yeah.
And if for nothing else, watch the Highlander just to hear the Queen soundtrack.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. Another great point.
But it was a great movie. I haven't watched it in years, but I'm willing to watch it again just because I loved it that much. And yeah, he played Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez.
Yes. It's like 65 letters.
Right. He was like, "Hello, my name is Emilio Montoya. I have come to avenge my father."
Prepare to die. So there's another one that came out in 99 called Entrapment. Now, the only reason this movie is a walking billboard for the then tallest buildings in the world, the Petronas Towers in Shanghai or Sri Lanka or somewhere. But it was also a walking billboard for Catherine Zeta-Jones's butt.
Yeah. Because
that's the only part of the movie anybody ever watched. Wow, those buildings are tall. Hey, look at her go through lasers.
Yeah. Well, he also in '93 played in Rising Sun with Wesley Snipes, and that was a good movie as well. I mean, I haven't watched it in a long time. It was based off a Michael Crichton novel, and most of Crichton's novels turn into good movies. Jurassic Park.
Both do.
Yep.
The one thing, because Sphere was terrible.
I haven't seen it.
It was the book. The book is interesting. Bad movie, even with Dustin Hoffman. It's like you kind of wanted to leave him underwater.
If you haven't read the Jurassic Park books, read them.
Very good.
Yes, they're better than the movies.
I read the first one actually. I haven't read any of the other ones. I only read the first one. My brother threw it at me and like, read this before the movie comes out. I go, what the fuck's a movie? I don't think. Okay, so yeah, I read it years ago. Really good.
Well, and he also had, a television career too. Because like in '56, he was in 3 different television shows.
Really?
Yep, he was in Dixon on Dock Green, The Condemned, and Sailor of Fortune. 2 of them were just for an episode. One was a television film. The Condemned was a television film. But he did TV in Britain. He even played Macbeth in '61.
Damn.
And he loved Shakespeare.
So I have to read you this. This is the late great Roger Ebert wrote this. This is the quote that he had for the movie Entrapment. His thing. Entrapment is the very embodiment of a star vehicle, a movie with a preposterous plot, exotic locations, absurd action sequences, and so much chemistry between attractive actors that we don't care. It stars Sean Connery and Catherine Zeta-Jones in a caper that reminded me of To Catch a Thief, Charade, and Top Copy. Don't even know what that is. Right. And stunt sequences in the stunt sequences in James Bond. I didn't believe it for a second, and I didn't care that I didn't.
Which is saying a lot from him,
right?
Because he's one of the most critical. Did you know that in 2005 he even lent his voice to a video game?
What game?
Play James Bond 007 from Russia with Love.
Really?
Yep. They used his likeness and his voice.
Huh. That was the year he retired. So officially, I guess that was his last.
Yep.
Well, I mean
he did
the voiceover stuff afterwards.
Yeah. But I mean, that was, yeah. I mean, you think about that, and it's like, we've talked about this a couple times. Your average millionaire has 7 different sources of income.
Mm-hmm.
The man had them.
Yes.
And for him, the income wasn't even what it was about.
No, he had even as late as um he lived in a suburb, or not a suburb. He lived in a small island in the Bahamas.
Right.
Called there was a Clifton Bay area, which is right around. He lived in New Providence Island, which is in Clifton Bay, and he created the Coalition to Protect Clifton Bay, which he did this at 83 years old.
Yeah.
And then in an op-ed in a new statement, Connery offers support for a referendum or Scotland's independence from Britain. I believe the opportunity of independence is too good to miss. Now, kind of an interesting thing about that was when and if Brexit goes through and Britain goes away from the European Union, Scotland actually has the opportunity to stay within the European Union. And by doing this, it will actually free Scotland from England.
Which would be nice.
Yeah. So
another interesting tidbit about Sean Connery is I believe he's the only actor to be in 2 different Robin Hood movies playing 2 different roles. He was in Robin and Marian as Robin Hood, and then he was in the Kevin Costner Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, as King Richard.
Oh.
Because remember, at the end, he didn't come in till the end of the movie, and at the end of the movie, he's like, "I forbid this marriage unless I'm allowed to give away the bride."
And you went, man, other than Alan Rickman, this is the best part of this movie.
Yep.
The rest of it was trash.
Christian Slater was good in it.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. Give you that.
Costner was unbelievable as Robin Hood.
Yeah,
Gary Hughes played a much better Robin Hood, and that was a comedy.
I like
the fucking animated Fox played a better Robin Hood.
That's what I was gonna say. I like to stick tradition. Robin Hood has to be a fox. Yeah. And try to date a fox.
Right.
His best friend's got to be a bear.
Right. And earlier you talked about his interview with Barbara Waters about slapping a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, as he got older, he recanted that. He changed his views on it.
Oh.
Because I watched an interview with him, and he was probably, I want to say, in his 70s, where he said, "I abhor violence. No man should ever hit a woman. No man should ever hit a child," and went on like that. So, and those of you people that think, people don't change, people do change. Sometimes for the worse, sometimes for the better.
Exactly. So, yeah, exactly. And, this is a man that grew up early in his career and where he's seen horrible things happen in stunts in the movies that he was in. He was in movies where a woman was called Pussy Galore.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of he was hit him and quit him in those movies.
What was Something Plenty? Was one of the names of the girls in one of the movies. He met her in a casino, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Something Plenty." He's like, "Yes, you are."
I'm trying to remember what it was because
I guess I could look up Bond girls real quick and find out.
Austin Powers had a lot of vagina.
Yep.
Which was a spoof on her name.
Yep. Bond girls list. Like, I get them in order if you want.
But so when he was in the 1965 flick Thunderball, Connery was supposed to act in a pool with live sharks, but he was assured that there was a special plexiglass partition there that would keep him away from the sharks. However, when they went to film the scene and he's swimming, one of the sharks had gotten over the plexiglass and was on the same side as him. So he had to swim and escape from his life, and was not too happy. But so in South Dakota, there's this little place called Reptile Gardens. I'm giving them a free shout out.
Okay.
On the wall there's this news article, and they're talking about, it was one of the Roger Moore movies. I think it was The Spy Who Loved Me.
Okay.
Where in the scene, James Bond runs, and he runs across this pond across the backs of alligators. Okay. They wanted to do fake alligators and all this. Well, this alligator handler said, absolutely not, I'll do it. And they're like,
right.
All right, we'll give you a shot. So they set it up. They get the film crew there, and he slips on the back of the first one, and the second one chomps down on him.
Oh, geez.
He spends a couple weeks in the hospital. They're like, all right, we're going to move on from that. It's like, no. I'm going to do this. Like, all right, we'll give you one more shot. So this time he slips on the back of the second one. The third one bites him. So after that, they're like, absolutely not. We are not doing it. So he's like, look, just put the camera out there. I'll shoot it. And if you want to use it, you can use it. But I need to do this. They're like, fine, fuck it. Here's a camera. So he sets it. They set it up for him. He does it, does the stunt right. It ends up in the movie. He retired from alligator handling, and the alligators that he ran across were in that zoo or that reptile garden that I went to.
Oh, Jesus. All right, so I got it. You ready?
Yes.
So her name was Plenty O'Toole, and when he met her, she's like, "Hi, I'm Plenty." He's like, "Yes, you are," and she's like, "Plenty O'Toole. I was named after my father." No, she said, "Plenty O'Toole." And he's like, "I see you were named after your father."
Nice.
Oh, that what movie was that in? That was in. Plenty O'Toole was in Diamonds Are Forever. So it was in Diamonds Are Forever. She was played by Lana Wood.
Okay.
And basically, she had a really low cut shirt, and she had really nice breasts.
Of course.
And that's why and when she said, "My name's Plenty," he's looking at her chest when he said, "Yes, you are." But back then, I mean, let's take a different twist on this. So, if you were to do that in a movie today, you would be criticized and vilified. Whereas back then, it was expected.
You'd have to do it with a character that was hated to be able to do it.
Or do it with like a Ryan Reynolds type character.
Yeah.
And it'd have to be straight, like, outlandish humor.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you look at that stuff like that, and it's like, back then that was normal. Now, not so much.
Not so much.
And so you got to be really careful about stuff like that.
Exactly. So, in 2004, Sean Connery was polled in the Sunday Herald as the greatest living Scot. 2011, Euro Millions surveyed him, and he became the Scotland's greatest living treasure. He was voted by People magazine as Sexiest Man Alive in 1989, and then Sexiest Man of the Century in 99. Yeah. All of this when he was almost 60 when he was Sexiest Man Alive, and he was almost 70 when he was Sexiest Man of the Century.
Right. Even at 90, the guy was still good looking. I mean, they interviewed people, and they interviewed Michael Ironsides, who played with him in a couple of different movies. they interviewed Lawrence Fishburne, who played with him in a couple different movies.
Yeah.
And when they're talking to Michael Ironside, they said, well, what do you think of Sean getting nominated as the sexiest man of the century? He looked at him and said, I'd fuck him. So then they go to Lawrence Fishburne and they tell him what Michael Ironside said. And he's like, yeah, I think I would too. And Michael Ironside's delivery. Oh, he was with Michael Ironside played with him in Highlander.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
But his delivery on everything that he does is just so ironic and cynic.
Yeah.
For him to say, I'd fuck him. It's just with the delivery he does in his movies with like that eyebrow raise that he does.
Right. That's awesome.
But I want to go back to what I was saying about the difference between now and then. And I want to give an example from something completely different.
Okay.
So there's a storyline going on right now in the WWE.
Okay.
And it involves Seth Rollins, who called himself the Monday Night Messiah, but now he's on SmackDown, so now he's just the Messiah. Basically, he's doing to save wrestling. He's playing a bad guy. People hate him, so he's doing his job. And he had a disciple named Murphy, but he was feuding with Rey Mysterio and Rey Mysterio's family.
Mm-hmm.
So Rey Mysterio has a 19-year-old daughter who's now on TV, and ratings are going up, so Vince McMahon's pushing her because that's what he does. So he puts her in a storyline where her and Murphy fall in love.
Mm.
Now, there's a lot of people that are criticizing that because she's 19, Murphy's 31.
Oh.
But there's also a lot of people going, they're both adult actors playing a role.
Right.
And she is past the age of consent.
In every state.
In every state. In probably every country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, she is an adult. She
Mm-hmm.
can make her own choices. So why is that wrong? Yeah, there's a, 12-year age difference? But I've dated people like, if I dated somebody 12 years younger than me, they'd be like 36 years old.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with that?
Right.
For me, it's a maturity level, but not that because I'd have no maturity.
Exactly. They're probably more mature than I am. Oh, wait, they are more mature than I am.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, so I think it's time to let's just accept one another for who the fuck we are.
Amen. Amen. I saw, and I don't want to really get into the political realm, but I saw this meme the other day that said, now that Biden's elected, I'm glad we can just go back to regular racism.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's like, I don't care if you're part of the LGBTQ or whatever community. I don't care, what your sexual preference is. I don't care what color you are, anything like that. I only care about things like that if you're doing something that directly affects my life. But then it's not because you're either gay or you're a different race. It's just you're an asshole.
Right.
And it pisses me off.
like to quote George Carlin, it's like, why would I hate you on the basis of your color, your skin, or your sexual preference? When I get to know you, there's so many more valid reasons.
Right. And for all those people that are like out there like wanting, gay people to lose their rights and stuff like that, like, what are they doing that is infringing on your life?
Right. They're bringing down the moral fiber of our country.
Why? Because they want to get married?
Right.
Isn't marriage part of the moral fiber of our country?
And
supposedly.
So think of it this way. Right now, we have so many people that are watching their loved ones die of COVID and not allowed into the hospital to see them. Now, the members of the LGBTQ RSVXW, I'm not trying to mock it. I just can't say it each time. I screw it up every time I try to say it. That's a shot at myself.
Yeah.
The reason that marriage to them is so important is A, they can't get on each other's health care. B, when one of them gets sick, they're considered a friend and can't go in. They're not a family or close They're not a close family member, so they're not allowed when they're in the intensive care unit to see when an accident happens. There's a lot of little things that the rest of us take for granted,
right?
That they're denied, and it's just basic human rights.
Yeah.
If this is the person that you love, then you should be able to go in and see them. You should be able to, swap healthcare if that's your thing.
Well, and the thing that gets me, you look back at the 80s. This is when the AIDS epidemic started. And then the first famous person to come down with it was Charlton Heston.
Yeah.
Who, all of his films, played this manly actor.
Right.
And then it came out in the 80s, said he was homosexual.
Right.
But yet, all those people just instantly forgot that part because of all the characters he portrayed.
Exactly.
So that was never brought up again. He just died of AIDS. I don't have a problem with him being gay. I have gay friends who I consider really good friends.
Yeah.
As long as they're not like trying to do something with me, I don't care.
I did really.
Do what makes you happy.
Exactly, and that's what made Sean Connery happy.
Mm-hmm.
Was being happy and making others happy, and he made me.
Right.
Did he make you happy?
He made me really happy. I mean, just be able to say slice twice. Because that's the best I can do with Sean Connery. All the other stuff I get tripped up with.
Everybody's got a word or two. Yes. That you could pull out.
Yep. And with Sean, it's all about your mouth and how when you get to the S's, you got to widen your mouth out.
Yes.
And tense it up. And it's because it's got to be forceful. Because that whenever he's like, yes, it's always forceful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the Scottish dialect too.
Right.
It's that, certain words have to have that intensity and that forcefulness to it. For us, like the most powerful word in the American language is fuck.
Mm-hmm.
It can be used as a noun, pronoun, adverb, adjective, verb, you name it. Personal pronoun.
You can use it to write a complete sentence.
Yep.
Fucking fuck. And you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yep. So, I mean, but that's English for you.
Exactly.
But, yeah, so I know, this is kind of a short episode, but it's kind of like our way of paying tribute to Sean and, going through his list of movies and stuff like that and his lifetime accomplishments because he was just an amazing man.
Yeah. That's all I can really say is, yeah.
All the characters. Okay, you mentioned some of the James Bond movies. I'm going to tell everybody out there right now, don't watch Thunderball. It sucked.
Mm-hmm.
I watched it, and I wish I had those 2 hours of my life
back. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's like I enjoyed him as Bond the best.
Right.
But they're not my favorite movies.
No. Acting-wise, he did the best. Daniel Craig's not the greatest actor. Mm-mm. It's the action that makes those movies good. Exactly. Pierce Brosnan is an incredible actor. And they had good action. Timothy Dalton.
Yes. George Lazenby. Mm-hmm. No, the one thing I'll say about the Daniel Craig Bond movies is if they didn't tell you his name was James Bond, if they put another name on it like John Wick, Jason Bourne, you'd believe it's one of those movies.
Right.
Not necessarily a James Bond movie. So those movies are really, I enjoyed every one of them.
Yeah.
And they had all of them have the over the top. Matt's does a great villain. He's got the leaky eye, and great movies. Even when you're just sitting there watching people play poker for 2 hours, still a really good movie. But it easily could have been. All of those movies easily could have been in another franchise.
Oh yeah. And the thing, and the reason I think, is because Daniel Craig didn't have the natural charisma that the rest of the actors that played Bond did.
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Craig, he's a good actor. I'm not trying to knock him, and he's ruggedly handsome. He's fucking ripped, you know, but he just doesn't have that it factor,
Right?
and that's that charisma that just comes off you. And Sean Connery, Roger Moore, Pierce Brosnan, Timothy Dalton, all these guys, they didn't even have to say a word. All they had to do was just look at you, and you're like, oh man, that guy's fucking awesome.
Like that's Bond right there. That's Bond.
Yep.
Now, I just hope. See, going back to Ian McKellen, not Ian McKellen. That's Gandalf.
Yeah.
Going back to the books were changed going forward after Sean Connery was hired or was cast as Bond, and everybody seemed to love it because they gave him a half Scottish background,
right,
to explain the accent going forward. Now, I would like everybody to just get over the notion of Bond has to be a white guy and get Idris Elba as the next Bond.
Fuck yeah, that'd be awesome. Because he is a phenomenal actor. He's got the charisma. He's got everything that's needed to be James Bond.
Yes.
But because he's also one of those guys that plays an incredible villain.
Oh yeah, if you haven't seen The Wire,
that's
the first time I ever seen him.
Yep, me too.
It was, and I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's going to be in everything, and he pretty much is now.
Yep. Yeah, he's a great actor, and he would make a great James Bond. I agree. Mm-hmm. Because he would surpass Daniel Craig. And it's funny because they interviewed Sean about James Bond, and he's like, "Well, Ian didn't want me. He wanted Cary Grant, but Cary Grant would have his salary alone would have surpassed the budget for the film."
Yeah, because his first film, his first role, he made $17,000.
Yeah,
for that movie.
Yeah, which I mean, you look at the time period though. I'm like, that was back in '62. $17,000 would be like about 60 to 70 grand today.
Yeah,
if not closer to 100 grand.
It was nowhere near what they're making now.
Right, but I mean, and then like you said. But then in '71, a mere 8 or 9 years later, he makes $1.2 million.
$1.2 million. Yeah. Sets again a world record.
Yeah, and you could easily say, without Sean, James Bond never would have made a franchise.
Mm-mm. It would have been one of those things where it wouldn't have been a huge series. It may have been picked up later with somebody else. It would have been kind of like The Hunt for Red October, and then Patriot Games, and then Clear and Present Danger. They're like 3 independent movies with the Jack Ryan character.
Yeah.
But people had, and then when was it The Sum of All Fears came out, and it's Ben Affleck, people had a hard time putting those being the same guy.
Right.
You can pick any Bond movie, and Bond is Bond.
Right.
And Sean set the standard for that.
Yep.
He was the torchbearer, and without it, we would have had like 4 independent movies over 40 years of these Ian Fleming books. Right.
And I mean, like you said, yeah, they weren't the best Bond movies, but he was the best Bond.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Roger Moore as Sean Connery, or as James Bond, before I ever saw any of the Sean Connery movies, because they all came out before I was born.
Yeah.
So the ones that were played on TV or at the theater were the Roger Moore ones. Those are the ones I grew up on.
The only one I saw in the theater when they came out was Never Say Never Again.
Yeah.
And that came out when I was, I was 11. That was the last Sean Connery one.
Yeah.
And I think that was think that was 2000.
That was 1983.
83. So I saw
was
one.
Never Say, yeah, Never Say Never Again.
Yeah. Yeah, so I was 10 years old.
Yeah.
But that was so when that movie came out the same year. Random bit of trivia that I remember about my life. There was E.T. There was then Never Say Never Again. There was a movie that came out with Chevy Chase called Deal of a Century, where he was kind of an arms dealer. There was a Robin Williams movie with Jerry Reed and Walter Matthau called Survivors. Those 4 movies came out roughly around the same time.
Okay.
My childhood friend in Louisiana, his dad lived across the street from the North Gate Mall. In the North Gate Mall was the cinema. We would go into the cinema. We'd buy a ticket to get in. We'd go see E.T. And then we would spend all day going from theater to theater to theater. So we would see, I saw those 4 movies 8 to 10 times a weekend when I was a kid.
Right. One of the YouTube movies that in his own, Sean Connery, in his own words, it's on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
That was great because it was just, they sat down with Sean and they're basically going through films. Another one was Sean Connery scene to scene with this other Scottish guy interviewing him and sitting down and going through scenes with him. That one was really good too.
Was there subtitles?
No. It was probably when Sean was probably close to 80. Yeah, I mean, there's so much out there.
Yeah.
On YouTube about him. Hell, you can watch the full full 007 movie, The New Spy Against Divided Evil. Miss Moneypenny and M of MI6 SIS cannot stop a horrific fiery aircraft crash instigated by, and that's all. But hey, it's free on YouTube. Fuck it, watch it.
Yeah, exactly. We probably can actually be able to play a 6 Degrees of Sean Connery game.
Yeah.
Because he had starred beside tons of people over the years.
Yeah, like the one that we forgot to talk about was The Man Who Would Be King. Yes. And who did he start with?
Michael Caine. Michael fucking Caine.
Who's been in fucking everything?
Yes.
from the early 80s to probably mid 90s, almost 2000, you couldn't see a movie without Michael Caine.
Michael Caine had to be in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Or Michael Caine look-alike in Brian Brown.
Right.
But in his lifetime achievement speech, he starts off with, so in my career, I've made a lot of great movies and I've made a lot of shit, but I had to pay bills.
Right. Sean said that or Michael Caine?
Michael Caine says that. But, the movie that we never talked about was Family Business. That was with Dustin Hoffman and Matthew Broderick.
I never saw it.
So it wasn't much monumental. It was just the idea that Sean Connery's the grandfather to Matthew Broderick, who is the son of Dustin Hoffman.
Okay.
And it's an interesting film. It's not overly memorable. That's why we didn't really talk about it.
It's a comedy, isn't it?
It's a dramedy.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I ain't gonna lie. I'm with Michael Ironsides. I'd fucking.
Yeah.
The guy, and this is the ironic thing about him, because he's always been so handsome, but he started balding at a very early age.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he was in his 20s when he was going bald.
Yeah.
And he had, all of his movies, he had to wear some sort of hairpiece, wig, or something.
Yes, all the James Bond movies, he's wearing a toupee.
Yep. And, like, especially in the one where they turned him Japanese. Like, think I'm turning Japanese. I really think so.
So like in Medicine Man, when he's got the full-on ponytail.
Yeah. But he still had the bald spot in that.
Yeah.
But at that point, he was an older man, so it was more, at that point, for some reason, women find, or back then in that time, women found balding men, older men, sexy.
Mm-hmm.
They don't find me sexy, but they found them sexy.
Me either. So.
But I don't have that it factor.
Right. And something else we didn't talk about was him getting his wrist broken by Steven Seagal.
Yeah, another reason to hate Steven Seagal.
Yeah.
Number 374,260.
And then later in his life, he says he never really fully healed from the wrist break.
Right.
Because Seagal was teaching him some Aikido.
Yep.
And the move went wrong and it snapped his wrist.
Yeah, and he was learning that for when he played the ninja, wasn't he?
Yeah.
No,
it was.
That was later. That was for The Rock, wasn't it?
It must have been because it was in the early 90s when it happened.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with a Sean Connery movie. Even his bad movies, he still does a good performance.
Yeah.
He becomes that character. I mean, who would have thought that you could sit there and believe this Russian submarine captain is Russian, even though he has a Scottish accent and
everybody else on the boat is speaking with a heavy Russian accent, except for the captain who wants to defect. Of course, because he's not fucking Russian, and I'm in charge of a goddamn nuclear submarine.
They're all like 50 watts per channel.
So one thing I do appreciate about Sean Connery is he didn't go down that path at the end of his career and make a whole bunch of just garbage.
Right.
So like Robert De Niro has been in a lot of trash over the last couple of years.
He's got a new one on Netflix called The Irishman that looks interesting.
Yeah, that's a Scorsese film.
Yeah, because it's got Pacino, it's got De Niro, it's got Pesci, it's got a few more.
Ray Romano is awesome in it.
Is it a good movie? Have you watched it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's long though. It's like 3 hours.
I might have one of the days I'm doing an art project. I'm gonna have to put that on in the background.
It's good. It's right up there with Goodfellas.
Okay. But yeah, I mean, so many actors.
But he did like Bad Grandpa in The Intern.
Yeah.
It's like, come on,
stuff
Robert.
with Ben Stiller.
Yeah.
Meet the Fockers.
Yeah.
I didn't care for it.
I wasn't.
My wife did. My kids liked it, but it wasn't my thing. I was just like, I want De Niro to be De Niro. That's like Joe Pesci playing Mr. Rogers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to see it.
Yeah.
Because it'd be like, it's a beautiful day in the fucking neighborhood. Are you looking at me? You're talking to me.
The fun fact about that is that do I amuse you? Everybody at the table knew that he was going to do that except for Ray Liotta. Because they were joking about it before then. Then Ray Liotta comes in, they go to do the scene, and then he's like, "No, whoa. Do I amuse you?" and that ended up in the movie, and it's probably one of the most memorable lines in the entire fucking franchise.
Right. And the interesting thing is, I guarantee you, going back to the 6 degrees of separation from Sean Connery, is all of those actors looked up to him because he got into it before most of them did, and probably took a lot of their cues from acting from watching him.
Oh, yeah.
And James Bond and all that stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
And there's my segue back to Sean Connery. Pa-ta-ta!
All right, I think we beat this horse to death.
Huh?
I said I think we've beaten this horse to death.
Yes. So, Miss Moneypenny.
Yes.
Sum up today with Sean Connery was fucking brilliant.
Yes, he was. Insert Sean here.
Peace out. Miss you, Sean.